Good evening, you tired, brave little human who somehow made it to this video instead of scrolling into the void until your thumb files for overtime. Set your shoulders down. Let your jaw unclench. You're safe here, in the soft middle space between today's noise and tomorrow's demands, where history doesn't shout from a textbook. It simply breathes beside you. Right now, imagine you're stepping into medieval Timbuktu, an old desert city where alleys run like quiet rivers between mud brick walls, and every corner carries the faint perfume of ink, warm earth, and mint. The air is cooler than the sand expects, and the sky is fading from pale brass to velvet indigo. A lamp flame trembles somewhere nearby, and you can almost hear parchment turning with the same care people reserve for sleeping children. And yes, tiny reality check. You probably won't survive this in the heroic, sword-swinging way. You'll survive it in the most embarrassing way possible, by relaxing, by letting your thoughts slow down, by realizing your nervous system has been sprinting like it's late for a flight that doesn't even exist. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and let me know how your day has really been. Your worries, your exhaustion, or even a tiny joy that made you smile. I'm here to truly listen and offer the most sincere, heartfelt advice I can. Now, turn off the lights. Take a deep, slow breath, let your tiredness melt away, and gently close your eyes. Let's drift together into tonight's dreamlike lands. And tomorrow morning, if you still remember, send me a message and tell me what you dreamed. The shift into the past arrives like a change in temperature on your skin. Subtle, undeniable. You are walking in a narrow alley of packed earth and fine sand, smoothed by countless feet and the occasional patient donkey. The walls rise close on either side, not threatening, just intimate, as if the city is leaning in to keep your secrets. Late light pours in from above in thin ribbons. It catches on tiny flecks in the plaster, making the mud brick shimmer as though it remembers being riverbed once. Your breath tastes dry at first, then fresher. Mint rides the air in gentle waves, not sharp like a cough drop, but soft like a hand resting on the back of your neck. You follow it because your body has always known what comfort smells like. People pass in calm motion. Cloth dyed indigo that stains the dusk. Warmer turmeric and teal that glow as the day dims. A woven reed basket swings from an arm, practical and familiar, the kind of object that has never needed to be trendy to be loved. Nobody stares. In a trading city at the edge of a great desert, travelers are part of the weather. You turn a corner and the alley widens into a courtyard held in the palms of surrounding buildings. The ground has been swept smooth. A low table sits near the wall, and on it rests a brass oil lamp, rounded and steady, catching the last daylight in a tired gold wink. A kettle steams nearby. Mint thickens, joined by the darker sweetness of tea leaves. You watch unhurried hands lift, pour, and aerate the drink in a thin ribbon from height, turning liquid into something ceremonial without making a show of it. No words are required to make you feel welcome. The invitation is in the rhythm, in the space that simply appears for you to occupy. You lower yourself and let the cup warm your palms. The first sip is bright and sweet. Mint cools the back of your throat while the tea steadies your chest. Your shoulders drop another fraction, which is apparently your body's new hobby. Lamps begin to glow around the courtyard, one by one, like stars deciding to come closer. As the light dims, Timbuktu reveals its other texture, the hush of study. Through a doorway you glimpse low shelves, bundles of paper, and the curve of a reed pen. Someone bends over a page, the writing careful and patient, as if each letter is being taught how to stand without falling. A breeze slides in, cool now, bringing the dry scent of the Sahara and a faint trace of wood smoke. The brass lamp is lit, and the flame steadies, casting warm shadows that make everything look kinder. The woven basket rests nearby, ready for errands, for bread, for pages wrapped in cloth. You are guided without being pushed into the flow of the evening. You learn by watching. Cups rinsed with thrift, kettles tilted so no drop is wasted. People sitting together without filling the air just to prove they exist. Even the walls seem to listen. The city does not feel like a monument. It feels like a living home. And as you sip again, slower this time, you sense the night will not be about grand battles or dramatic betrayals. It will be about alleys and ink and tea, and the quiet heroism of keeping something fragile alive. You let that thought settle. You let the lamp's glow soften the corners of your attention. For the first time today, maybe for the first time in longer than you want to admit, you feel perfectly allowed to be still. The night does not hurry you. It simply carries you forward on its slow, warm breath, the way a river carries a leaf without ever asking it to prove it deserves the ride. You leave the courtyard with mint still lingering on your tongue, and the lamp's glow still printed softly behind your eyes, like a small sun you can keep in your pocket. The alley opens again into movement, not chaos, never that. Timbuktu has a steadier kind of busy, the kind that comes from people who know what they're doing and don't need to perform it. You drift toward the market as if the city itself is guiding you by scent and sound. The sweetness of dates, the musk of leather, the peppery bite of spice, the far-off animal warmth of camels and goats. Even the sand underfoot feels different here. More compacted, more confident, as if it has been told all day to behave. A woven reed basket brushes your leg as someone passes, then a second basket, then a third. The baskets are everywhere. Quiet assistants in the choreography of trade, carrying bread, carrying herbs, carrying folded cloth, carrying the ordinary weight of survival. You find yourself holding one before you fully notice how it happens, as if your hands are simply being included in the city's practical logic. No one makes a big deal of it. Timbuktu does not clap for the bare minimum. Lantern light thickens, turning the air honey-colored. Indigo cloth hangs in long panels that drink the light instead of reflecting it. The dye so deep it seems to pull your thoughts downward into calm. Nearby, turmeric and teal fabrics brighten the shadows, making the dusk look less like an ending and more like a comfortable blanket being pulled up. The market is a living arithmetic, not the cold kind that makes you feel stupid, but the gentle kind that makes sense in your bones. Weight, texture, scarcity, distance, effort, risk, and trust, all counted without shouting. Goods move across tables and mats. Salt slabs pale and heavy, their edges chipped like old stone. Bundles of dried leaves, smooth lumps of resin, beads that catch lamplight. leather goods shaped by hands that have repeated the same motions so many times they could probably do it in a dream. And then there's gold, so understated it almost feels rude. Not the loud, cinematic kind you see in modern fantasies where everyone's teeth are somehow also gold. Here, gold appears as dust and small pieces, contained carefully, measured with a calm precision. You watch it handled like something both valuable and normal, because this city has learned how to hold extremes without losing its posture. You notice how people smile, not the big, performative grin of someone trying to sell you a timeshare. The smiles here are smaller and more exact. Acknowledgements, calibrations, quiet agreements. A smile that says, "I see you." A smile that says, "You are safe enough to stand here." A smile that says, "Yes, you may look, and no, you may not touch that with your curious little tourist fingers." You move with the crowd's pace, guided by subtle signals. A shift of a shoulder, a hand gesturing toward a clearer path, the way bodies part without drama. You realize how loud your own inner world has been recently. Your planning, your worrying, your mental tabs left open like a browser with 37 unsaved crises. Here, the market teaches you a different skill: close a tab. Open your senses instead. The brass oil lamp reappears, of course it does. It's carried by someone moving through the lanes with the same unbothered grace as a person carrying water. The lamp's flame bobs gently, making a small moving island of light. You watch shadows ripple over stacked goods, and it feels as if the entire market is breathing with that flame. Inhale, exhale, exchange. You pause near a spread of writing materials, and the scent changes. Ink has its own smell, earthy, slightly sharp, like something born from smoke and patience. Reeds lie bundled together, their tips cut at angles meant for discipline. Small knives, stones for smoothing, cloths for wiping. You see pages, some blank, some already marked with lines so fine they look like threads. There is a quiet reverence in the way these things are arranged. In a city where knowledge is traded like treasure, the tools of writing are never just tools. You feel it then. The market is not only a place for buying. It is a place for becoming. People come here to gather what they need, yes, but also to gather each other: news, reassurance, familiar faces, a sense of belonging that costs nothing and yet is priceless. Warmth is its own currency, and it circulates freely in small gestures. The way someone makes space for you, the way a hand steadies a basket as it's passed, the way a glance checks if you're lost without making you feel ashamed for being human. You pass food stalls where steam rises into the cooler night, carrying scents that make your stomach speak up with sudden honesty. Bread is stacked in simple abundance. Dates gleam like polished stones. Spices lie in little hills: ochre, rust, deep green, colors that look like they came directly out of the earth and decided to be useful. The tea scent follows you like a kind friend who refuses to abandon you to your own stress. Somewhere beyond the market's glow, you sense the desert waiting, vast, patient, a reminder that everything here has traveled. Salt from far places, cloth from far looms, stories from far mouths, ideas from far minds. Timbuktu stands as a soft hinge between worlds, and the market is the hinge's living heartbeat. You carry the reed basket a little longer than necessary, partly because it gives your hands something to do, and partly because it makes you feel included. You are not a spectator anymore. You are a small moving piece in the city's evening equation. And for once, you do not mind being counted. As you drift onward, lantern light painting your path, you realize the market has already taught you its first lesson without a single spoken word. Value is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives quietly, wrapped in cloth, measured in smiles, and placed gently into your tired hands. You leave the market with a slow, pleasant weight in your arms, the woven reed basket's handle pressing a faint pattern into your palm. Lantern light thins behind you, but it doesn't disappear. It follows in small islands of glow, and somewhere ahead the familiar brass oil lamp drifts through the alleys like a patient guide. The air cools. Your skin, which has been negotiating with heat and dust all day, finally stops arguing. You slip into a narrower passage where mud brick walls rise close and tall, their plaster smoothed by hands and time, patched, polished, and patched again. Above, the sky deepens toward velvet indigo. Below, packed earth gives underfoot with a soft grit that keeps you grounded in the simplest truth. This place is made of earth and effort. A doorway appears, plain, almost shy. Then the alley opens, and shade gathers around you. The courtyard feels held, protected by surrounding rooms. The temperature drops immediately, not dramatically, but with the relief of stepping into shadow. Light filters through reed matting and beams, turning harshness into softness. A strip of night sky sits overhead, framed like a painting. You notice the first thing that matters here, and it matters so clearly your modern brain feels slightly guilty for taking it for granted. Water. Not the invisible, careless kind you let run while you think about 100 other things. Here, water is visible on purpose. Clay jars sit tucked into shaded corners, rounded-bellied and steady. A shallow basin waits near the entrance, its surface catching lamplight in a trembling oval. The air around it smells faintly damp, clean, mineral, alive. Your hands hover. Your body senses a rule before your mind can name it. You follow the city's quiet logic and lower your fingers into the basin. The water is cool, not cold, just enough to tell your nerves they can stop bracing. You rinse slowly, because speed would feel loud in this space. Drops fall back with soft taps, and each one feels counted. The courtyard's quiet is not emptiness. It's deliberate. The ground has been swept smooth. A mat lies neatly arranged. Low stools sit by the wall. The brass oil lamp rests on a ledge now, its flame steady, throwing warm light that makes the mud walls glow like baked bread. Someone takes the reed basket from your hand and sets it aside. You realize your hands have been working all day, carrying, gripping, managing, and they relax as if relieved. A kettle murmurs somewhere nearby. Mint drifts into the air again, soft and sweet. You inhale, and your chest expands into spaces it forgot it had. Your mind tries to get busy. It wants to calculate where the water comes from, how far it travels, how much is left, what happens if it runs low. Then the courtyard answers without words. Water is here because everyone treats it like it matters. The system is care. The system is noticing. You watch water move in small, measured gestures. A cup is rinsed with a swirl, and the rinse water is used again, not hidden, not ashamed, simply practical. A cloth is dipped and wrung, and the coolness is pressed to wrists and temples. These motions are not dramatic. They are routine. Hospitality here is not a performance. It is infrastructure. Deeper in the shade, jars sit half buried in sand to stay cooler. The clay sweats faintly in the night. You touch one gently and feel the earth's oldest mercy. Coolness offered without fuss. Nearby, another basin sits by a small step, placed so anyone entering or leaving can rinse dust away. You begin to see how the architecture choreographs kindness. Pause, rinse, breathe, then enter. Not purity as show, just comfort, health, and respect for the people who will share a room with you. You sit on a low stool, and your spine releases another notch, like it has been waiting for permission. Overhead, reed matting shifts in the breeze with a soft brushing sound. Beyond the wall, faint footfalls pass and fade. Even the city's movement seems padded. Mint tea returns on a small tray. The cup warms your palms. The sweetness is gentle, the heat steady. You sip, and mint lifts your breath, clearing the day's dust from the back of your throat. The tea doesn't jolt you awake. It settles you into the night. In the courtyard's corners, you notice small order. Bundles of reeds stacked neatly, a folded cloth, pages wrapped in fabric to protect them from wind and grit. Everything has a place, not because someone is obsessive, but because order becomes a form of respect when resources are precious. Here, tidiness is survival with good manners. You think of the market again, its calm trades, its measured smiles, and you understand the relationship. Out there, value is negotiated in public. In here, value is practiced in private. The cup rinsed carefully, the water saved, the lamp tended, the guest allowed to rest without being interrogated. A faint breeze slips through, carrying the scent of distant sand and wood smoke. The oil lamp flame leans and straightens, like it's nodding along. You watch it longer than you meant to. Your thoughts lengthen and soften. They stop sprinting. And in that softened space, you feel what this courtyard is really offering. Something older than luxury and deeper than convenience. It offers permission to take up space without consuming too much. To be cared for without owing a performance. To be human in a world that understands intimately that even a single drop matters. You let that understanding settle into you, slow and steady, like cool water soaking into clay. The courtyard's shade still clings to you as you slip back into the alley, like cool water refusing to leave your skin. Mint tea lingers on your breath, and the night air feels gentler now, as if Timbuktu has decided you are not a threat to its quiet. The brass oil lamp moves ahead at an unshowy pace, its flame steady in a small pool of light. You follow that glow the way tired people follow anything that promises to be kind. The passage narrows, bends, and narrows again. Alleys drawn by habit rather than rulers. Walls press close, warm from the day's stored heat, and the packed earth under your sandals gives a soft sigh with each step. Above, a thin strip of sky holds a few early stars, pale as ink that hasn't fully dried. You pass doorways that look plain until lamplight schemes them and reveals careful work in the plaster. A smoother patch here, a shallow curve there. The subtle beauty of things repaired instead of replaced. Somewhere behind a wall, pages turn. It is not loud. It is the kind of sound you only hear when you stop demanding entertainment from the world and start accepting its smaller offerings. The oil lamp turns and you turn with it, and the air changes. The market smelled like trade and cooking fires. The courtyard smelled like water and rest. Here, the alley smells like patience. Ink has a scent that announces itself before you see a single page. Smoky, earthy, slightly sharp, like charred wood mixed with ground stone. Quiets your thoughts the way a library does, even in open air. You find yourself stepping more softly, as if your feet have learned respect without asking your permission. The lane widens into a pocket of warm light. The brass lamp is set down on a low ledge, and its flame throws gentle shadows over bundles of reeds, stacks of paper, folded cloth, and small tools laid out with the neatness of people who understand that one missing item can ruin an evening's work. The woven reed basket rests nearby, suddenly feeling like a humble cousin of these careful instruments. Another vessel for carrying what matters. Hands move in practiced rhythms. A reed is chosen, trimmed with a small blade, split at the tip so it can hold ink, then smoothed and tested. Nothing is wasted. Not the reed, not the offcuts, not the time. Precision here is not harsh. It is calm. Ink is prepared with the same steady attention. Dark pigment is mixed with water, thickened, then given strength with binding, gum from trees, resin, the quiet chemistry of necessity. A little is poured into a small container, and the surface quivers like a black mirror under lamplight. Your modern brain tries to label it quickly, as if naming something means you own it, then gives up and simply watches. A sheet is placed on a board. The page is treated like a resource, not a disposable background for your feelings. Fingers hover to avoid smearing. A cloth waits nearby. The reed pen touches down, lifts, touches down again, and letters appear with calm inevitability. Curves, dots, measured strokes. Ink darkens, then begins to mat as it dries. You notice small bowls of fine sand set close. When a line is finished, a pinch is sprinkled lightly, catching the wet ink so it dries without smearing. The sand is tipped away and saved. Even the desert is enlisted politely, lending its grit to protect the city's words. You lean in and see margins filled with tiny notes, as careful as the main text. You see corrections made without drama, an extra that added, a curve adjusted, a word rebuilt with restraint. You realize, with the faint shame of someone who has rage-deleted a draft in frustration, that these writers do not have the luxury of being sloppy. Paper costs effort. Ink costs effort. Time costs effort. So they breathe, steady their hand, and continue. It is oddly comforting. The city is telling you, in oil lamp light, that imperfect moments do not require dramatic endings. They require small repairs. Cleaned nib, a fresh line, a return to the work. Mint finds you again, because Timbuktu seems determined to keep your body calm while your mind learns. The cup warms your hands. The lamplight turns page edges a faint shell gold, and the indigo cloth nearby deepens into something like night itself. Turmeric and teal garments pass quietly at the edge of the lane, locals moving with the courtesy of people who understand this is a place where sound should not stomp. You think of the market's gentle math and the courtyard's careful water. Here, you feel the next equation. Attention becomes knowledge. Knowledge becomes survival. Survival becomes the soft confidence of a city that can welcome a stranger without losing itself. Even the woven basket seems to agree, waiting beside the lamp as if it has done this before, ready to carry pages wrapped in cloth, ready to carry the future one careful bundle at a time. You stay longer than you planned, not because you are trying to learn everything, but because your nervous system recognizes the rhythm as medicine. Ink, breath, lamplight, and the steady patience of letters, each stroke reminding you that time can be used gently and still become something that lasts. You stay in the scribe's lane long enough for the oil lamp's flame to feel like a companion rather than a tool. The air is warm with ink and breath, and your eyes begin to notice what they usually ignore: the space the words sit on. Not the elegant strokes, not the clever layout, the page itself. The quiet, pale ground that makes meaning possible. A bundle is unwrapped on a low board, and for a moment you feel the ridiculous urge to apologize to paper for every time you've wasted it. Back in your own era, you fling pages into printers like you're feeding a hungry machine. Then you toss half of it because the margin looked off. Here, a sheet is treated the way you treat a sleeping child or a cup of scarce water, with slow hands and no sudden movements. The page is not simply paper. It is travel. It is trade. It is risk. It is someone's afternoon spent pressing, drying, smoothing, and guarding it from wind. In a desert city where sand is eager to claim everything, even a blank surface is an achievement. You watch the materials arrive like guests. Some sheets are thin and slightly warm-toned, their edges soft, their fibers faintly visible when the lamplight grazes them. Others are thicker, brighter, with a crispness that suggests distant workshops and long caravan routes. A few pieces look different entirely. Animal skin, carefully prepared, pale and tough, used when durability matters more than ease. Parchment has a faint living smell, not unpleasant, just honest. Proof that nothing becomes a writing surface without paying a price. A hand lifts a sheet and holds it at an angle. The lamp's glow schemes across it, revealing texture like a landscape. The page is checked for flaws, thin spots, rough patches, hidden grit. Not because anyone is being precious for fun, but because ink is unforgiving. A single grain can turn a beautiful line into a jagged stumble. You remember that pinch of sand used to dry ink, and you realize the sand is both helper and enemy. It is invited only in carefully measured doses. Preparation begins, and it is astonishingly domestic. A soft cloth is drawn across the surface to remove dust. A smooth stone, cool and rounded, presses and glides, burnishing the page until it grows slightly glossy, like it has been gently persuaded to behave. Sometimes a thin sizing is applied, starch or gum, so the ink will sit on the surface rather than bleed into the fibers. The motions are repetitive, patient, and strangely soothing, as if the page is being tucked in. You see lines lightly ruled, faint guides that will keep the writing straight. They are not loud, these lines. They are the kind of structure that helps without humiliating you. Your shoulders relax because the page, in its quiet way, is promising order. Stay within these boundaries, and your thoughts will look calmer than they feel. The tools are modest, but everything around them carries consequence. A reed pen costs time to cut and shape. Ink costs pigment, water, binders, and the steady discipline of mixing it correctly. But this page, costs a whole chain of decisions. Someone chose to carry it. Someone chose to protect it from sudden rain and constant dust. Someone chose to trade for it rather than for another comfort. You begin to understand why words are treasured here. Writing is never only thought. It is logistics made visible. The woven reed basket sits near the lamp, and you notice it is lined with cloth, as if even a simple basket understands its new job. A wrapped bundle is placed inside. Pages, folded and protected, edges aligned. The basket's weave makes a soft, dry whisper when it shifts. It is the sound of storage, of care, of "we will need this later." Your attention drifts to the way finished pages are handled. They are not waved around. They are not left open to the air for drama. A written sheet is dried, checked, and then covered, sometimes with another page, sometimes with cloth, because dust is always arriving, always curious, always rude. The oil lamp is kept at a respectful distance. Fire is a friend but a dangerous one. Even the warmth of hands is managed. Fingers touch margins, not inked lines, the way you avoid stepping on fragile ground. And then, as you sit there letting the lamp's steady glow slow your thoughts, you feel the most surprising thing about the page. It is not sterile. It has personality. A slight warp, a soft edge, a speck where a fiber clumped. It is imperfect, and that imperfection makes the manuscript human rather than mechanical. You begin to see why knowledge here is treated like something living. It needs a body. The page is that body. A breeze slips down the lane and flutters the corner of a sheet. Immediately, a palm steadies it, gentle, quick, practiced. No scolding, no fuss. Just a correction and a return to calm. You feel something in your chest loosen again. It is the same lesson the courtyard taught you with water. You can protect what matters without panicking. You can be precise without being harsh. Under the lamp, the page waits, smooth now, ready to receive ink. You look at it and understand, in a quiet, sleepy way, why this feels like a miracle. In a place where sand wants to erase footprints before they cool, people build surfaces for memory. They gather light in brass. They carry pages in baskets. They sweeten tea with mint. And they decide over and over that the future deserves to have something written down. You drift out of the scribe's lane with the strange feeling that you've just watched someone build a bridge out of patience. Ink still seems to hover in the air behind you. Smoky, mineral, steady. And the brass oil lamp is lifted again, its flame bobbing like a small heartbeat that refuses to be rushed. The woven reed basket follows, now more carefully lined, as if even the basket has started taking itself seriously. The alley opens into another courtyard, and the night is fully settled now. Cooler, quieter, softer around the edges. The walls hold the day's warmth in their mud brick bones, but the air itself feels like a long exhale. You notice that the city doesn't demand your attention the way modern life does. It doesn't flash at you, ping you, or vibrate in your pocket like a needy little device. It simply exists, and somehow that is enough. Mint finds you before you even see the tea. The scent arrives first, fresh, green, sweet, threading through the courtyard like a promise. Then you see the kettle and the cups, arranged with the same careful logic you saw in the handling of pages. Nothing sloppy, nothing wasted, nothing performed for applause. It is etiquette, yes, but not the stiff kind that makes you feel like you'll be executed for holding a cup incorrectly. It is soft etiquette designed to make everyone feel steady. A tray appears, and the cups are small and clean. The brass oil lamp is set close enough to warm the scene but far enough to keep everyone alive, which feels like the ideal relationship between light and humans in general. You settle near the wall, where the shadows are gentle and the breeze slips in without making demands. Tea begins with water, and water begins with respect. You watch the kettle being handled as if it contains both heat and consequence, because it does. When the water is poured over the leaves and mint, there is a pause, just long enough for the flavors to wake. Then comes the part you've already seen, but now you understand it more, the pouring from height. A thin stream arcs down into the cup, shimmering in the lamp's glow. It aerates the tea, cools it slightly, and folds the mint's scent into the air like perfume for the nervous system. The motion is graceful but practical, a little performance only because good technique sometimes looks like art. The stream is steady, the hand calm. You find your breathing quietly syncing with the rhythm of pour, pause, pour. This is not a drink you swallow and forget. This is a drink you enter. You take the cup with both hands, partly because it's warm, and partly because you sense that receiving with care is part of the whole exchange. Your palms cradle the glass. Your fingers relax around it. The first sip is sweet and bright, mint lifting the top of the flavor like a small lamp inside your mouth. The warmth spreads into your chest. Your thoughts, those restless little animals, slow down and lie down. Around you, the rituals continue in small ways that don't look like rituals until you pay attention. There is a certain pace to greeting. A pause, a look, a slight inclination of the head. There is a certain patience to listening. People don't interrupt to prove they are clever. They let silence exist without treating it like an emergency. They let the air between moments stay intact, like the space between lines on a page. You realize how much of your modern etiquette is just anxiety in a nicer outfit. Smiling too hard, talking too much, filling every pause with noise like you're terrified someone will notice you're human. Here, the city teaches you another skill. Be present without performing presence. The tea is poured again, and you notice that the cup is not topped off in a careless rush. It is measured. The kettle spout is tipped back at just the right moment to avoid wasting even a drop. The mint leaves are not treated as disposable decoration. They are valuable like paper, like ink, like water. Everything in Timbuktu seems to share the same philosophy. If something is useful, treat it with dignity. The woven reed basket rests nearby, its cloth lining folded neatly over the rim. It sits close enough to be included, but not so close that someone might trip over it, which is also a kind of etiquette. Make room for what matters, but don't make it everyone else's problem. You glance at the basket and think of pages wrapped carefully against dust. You think of sand sprinkled to dry ink. You think of how every detail here is both gentle and exacting. The brass oil lamp hums softly with its flame, throwing shell gold light on the cups and the edges of cloth. Indigo fabric deepens in the shadows. Turmeric and teal garments glow in the warm light like spice and water held side by side. It is a palette of calm strength, a visual reminder that beauty does not have to be loud to be deliberate. You learn the unspoken rules simply by existing long enough to notice them. Don't rush the pour. Don't grab. Don't make your needs the center of the room. If you must move through a space, do it with awareness, like a reed pen moving across a page. If you are offered something, receive it fully, as if the offering is real, because it is. If you are listening, listen like the person's words are a manuscript, fragile, precious, worth protecting from careless handling. And the most surprising rule of all, let yourself be cared for. It sounds simple, but your body fights it at first because you're used to earning rest like it's a reward you have to bargain for. You're used to being productive as proof you deserve softness. Timbuktu does not negotiate that way. It offers tea. It offers shade. It offers lamplight. It offers a pace that allows your mind to stop sprinting. You take another sip, slower. Mint cools the edges of your breath. Sweetness steadies your tongue. Warmth settles into your hands. Somewhere nearby, a page is turned with careful fingers, and the sound is so soft it feels like a lullaby made of paper. You are not asked to be impressive. You are asked, quietly, wordlessly, to be present, to be gentle, and to let the night carry you. The tea leaves a gentle brightness in your mouth, like someone quietly opened a window inside you. You set the cup down with care, because tonight everything seems to deserve care. The courtyard still holds its hush, the reed matting above shifting softly as the breeze slides through, and the brass oil lamp continues its steady vigil. Small flame, steady comfort, no dramatic flickering like it's auditioning for a tragedy. You rise without urgency. Your body has started learning a new pace, and it is slightly embarrassing how much you like it. The lamp is lifted again, and the woven reed basket comes too, lined with cloth as if it has graduated from carrying bread to carrying the future. You follow the light out of the courtyard and back into the alley, where mud brick walls keep the day's warmth tucked inside them. The night air is cool enough to feel clean, and the scent of mint fades into something drier. Dust, earth, faint smoke. The lane narrows, then turns, then opens toward a door that is almost too modest for what it guards. You would walk past it in your own world, assuming it leads to storage or a quiet home. Here, modesty is not a sign of emptiness. It is a habit of places that know their worth and don't need to advertise. You step inside and the temperature shifts, cooler, stiller. The air changes too. The market smelled like spice and trade. The scribe's lane smelled like ink and reed. This space smells like old paper, leather, and time. Not dusty in a neglected way, but dry in a preserved way, like a room that has been protected carefully from the desert's constant urge to erase. The brass oil lamp is set down, and its shell gold light spreads across mud-plastered walls. In that warm glow, the room reveals itself as a manuscript space. Shelves tucked into alcoves, bundles stacked neatly, volumes wrapped in cloth, tied with simple cords. Some are kept in leather satchels, softened by handling, darkened by use. Others rest in wooden boxes, the kind meant to keep out both sand and careless fingers. You feel your own hands become more polite, Your fingers curl in slightly, as if they already know. Don't touch unless invited by the room itself. The quiet here is different from the courtyard's quiet. That was hospitality quiet, water, tea, breath. This is library quiet, meaning held in sleep. You stand very still, and it feels as though the room is listening back. The lamp's flame becomes the only moving thing for a moment, and even it behaves, steady and patient. You move slowly along the shelves. The manuscripts are not arranged like a modern bookstore, where everything screams its title at you. Here, the organization is practical, intimate, grown over time. You notice marks on bundles, small notes, symbols, careful labeling that makes sense to the people who live with these texts every day. Some bundles are thicker, heavy with pages. Some are slender, like a single thought captured quickly before it disappeared. A faint rustle comes from deeper inside. Paper shifting, cloth being lifted, the soft tap of a reed pen being set down. You do not see faces clearly, just shapes in the lamplight. Someone leaning, someone reading, someone turning a page as if turning it too fast would startle the words. It reminds you of birds asleep on a branch. Present, delicate, utterly real, and not to be grabbed. You think briefly of your own mind. All the tabs left open. All the anxious little pop-ups. The way you treat knowledge like something you can always look up later, like it's immortal and backed up in the sky. Then you look at these pages. Wrapped against dust, protected from damp, guarded from fire, and you understand that knowledge here is mortal. It needs shelter. It needs hands. It needs this room, these walls, this lamp, this basket, this whole web of care. And somehow that makes it feel more sacred, not less. The lamp's light glides over a page edge and catches a faint shimmer. Ink that has browned slightly with time, lines drawn with disciplined strokes, occasional ornamentation that feels measured rather than flamboyant. Margins hold notes like quiet companions. Some pages are densely written. Others leave breathing room, as if the writer understood that a reader needs space to rest. You notice the materials again because now you can't stop noticing. The page fibers, the ruled lines, the sand's subtle influence, here to dry, here to threaten. Cloth wraps that smell faintly of clean plant dye, turmeric warmth, indigo depth, teal softness. Even the palette of the city seems to be present in the library. Colors not just for beauty, but for identity, continuity, memory. The woven reed basket is placed near you, and you realize it is not simply an object in the corner. It is part of the system, carries bundles from one room to another, carries pages to be copied, carries ink tools. It carries the physical weight of learning from one pair of hands to the next. In a place like this, a basket can be a vehicle for scholarship, and that feels both profound and wonderfully ordinary. You drift toward an alcove where several volumes are stacked with particular care. Leather covers show where at the edges, softened by many openings. Some pages are darker, older, their corners rounded from time. Others are newer, brighter, with ink still crisp. You imagine what lives in them. Law and ethics, astronomy traced in patient lines, poetry that makes the desert feel less empty, medicine recorded with the sober hope that knowledge can soothe pain. You sense the city's mind in these shelves. A hum, not loud, but constant. a community thinking across generations, refusing to let the wind be the final editor. The lamp makes the room feel like a warm pocket in the night. Outside, the Sahara remains vast and blunt, a place where footprints vanish quickly and distances do not care about your feelings. Inside, pages hold footprints of another kind. Ideas, prayers, calculations, stories. Marks that do not blow away if someone keeps tending the flame. You linger, letting your eyes soften. You don't need to understand every script to feel the devotion in the shapes. Your body recognizes the posture of study, the bowed head, the careful hand, the slow breath. It's the same posture you see in people who fix things properly. Patient, present, unwilling to rush something fragile. A small shift of air passes through the room, and the lamp's flame leans, then steadies again. You feel your own thoughts lean too, toward quiet, toward reverence, toward a kind of peace that doesn't require you to be anyone special. You are simply here, held by mud brick walls and centuries of attention, in a library that breathes like a sleeping animal. And the city's mind hums around you, gentle and persistent, as if to say, rest now. The words will still be here when you wake. You remain in that manuscript room long enough for the lamp's glow to feel like a second skin. The shelves and bundles become less like objects and more like a landscape. Soft rises of wrapped volumes, shadowed valleys between alcoves, quiet paths where careful feet have passed 1,000 times. The city outside continues its night rhythm, but in here everything is slowed, as if time itself has agreed to whisper. Then the light teaches you something new. It isn't just that the brass oil lamp makes the room visible. It shapes the room. It decides what is emphasized and what is softened. It turns mud walls into warm honey and turns paper edges into faint shell gold. It pulls ink lines into focus and makes the rest of the world fall away like a gentle blur. In your own world, you chase brightness. Screens, overhead lights, harsh white glare that floods everything until nothing feels important. Here, light is not a flood. It is a hand. The lamp is adjusted, pulled a little closer to one reading surface, turned slightly away from another. The flame remains steady, but the shadows shift like slow water. You notice how practiced the movement is. Nobody yanks the lamp around. Nobody jolts the flame. The lamp is treated like a living thing with moods. Keep it fed. Keep it shielded from sudden gusts. Keep it at the right distance from anything that could scorch. Fire is a friend, but a friend you never get sloppy with. A page is unfolded and placed beneath the lamp's best pool of light. A stone weight holds down a corner so the paper will not curl in the dry air. A reed pen rests nearby, its tip darkened from ink. The cloth waits, folded neatly, everything arranged not to impress, but to prevent mistakes. You begin to understand how much of wisdom is simply the refusal to create preventable problems. The room's atmosphere shifts from storage to activity. The library is not only a place where knowledge sleeps. It is a place where knowledge is kept awake. You observe the posture of study, a body leaning forward, but not hunched, shoulders relaxed, breath steady. The movement is minimal. A page is turned only when the eye is ready. A hand pauses before touching inked areas. Even the act of reading looks like a kind of respect, reading as careful handling. Outside, a breeze might be moving sand across rooftops. Inside, the air is still enough that you can sense your own heartbeat slowing. You realize you're listening, but not for words. There is no dialogue here, no dramatic narration from the locals, no welcome traveler. Let me explain this entire civilization to you. Timbuktu isn't interested in lecturing you. It is interested in letting you absorb. The lamplight falls on lines of script, and although you cannot read every symbol, your eyes recognize structure. Paragraphs, margins, consistent spacing. Knowledge has geometry. It has rhythm. It has the visual discipline of someone who expects their work to survive. You think of the market's gentle math, weights, measures, trust, and you notice how the same mindset lives here. Study is also an economy. It trades time for understanding. It trades effort for clarity. It trades the comfort of ignorance for the quieter comfort of knowing. And like any serious economy, it relies on infrastructure. Lamps, paper, water, baskets, shelves, routine. The woven reed basket sits in a corner, and your mind, which loves callbacks like it loves mint, suddenly connects it all. The basket is what moves manuscripts between rooms, protects pages from dust, carries writing tools. It is the humble logistics behind scholarly life. Without it, knowledge stays stuck. With it, knowledge travels. Your tired modern brain, always chasing big ideas, is forced to admit that big ideas depend heavily on small objects. The lamp's flame makes the ink look alive. Dark lines shimmer slightly when viewed from an angle. You notice tiny imperfections where the pen pressed harder, where a stroke thickened. Those imperfections are strangely comforting, like fingerprints. They prove that these pages were made by hands, not by machines. They prove that knowledge is not abstract. It is embodied. At another surface, someone is copying, carefully reproducing lines from one manuscript into another. The act is slow and steady. A reader's attention becomes a writer's attention. The page becomes a mirror for the page. It is not glamorous. It is devotion disguised as routine. You realize that this is how knowledge survives in a place where sand would rather erase everything. Repetition, copying, retelling, rewriting, not because people are stuck in the past, but because they are carrying the past forward one steady line at a time. You have always known this intellectually, but watching it in lamplight makes it emotional. You feel a tenderness toward anyone who has ever kept a tradition alive by doing something boring very well. The lamp flickers once, almost imperceptibly, and a hand adjusts the wick. The flame steadies again. It is such a small act, but it feels like the entire theme of the night. Maintain the light. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Don't demand drama. Just tend what you have. The room continues in its quiet labor. Pages turn. Sand is sprinkled to dry ink. Cloth covers a finished sheet. A reed pen is wiped clean. The lamp is watched like a small heart in the dark. Your own breathing becomes long, slow, and even. You feel your thoughts stretching out like a cat finally deciding the room is safe. You are not solving anything tonight. You are not performing. You are simply being allowed to witness how a city learns after sunset. And in that witness, your mind begins to soften into sleep, as if lamplight itself is writing calmness across the inside of your skull. Stroke by stroke, steady and kind. Your eyelids grow heavy in the manuscript room, not from boredom but from safety, the kind that convinces your nervous system it can finally stop standing guard at the door of your thoughts. The oil lamp keeps breathing steadily beside you. The reed basket waits in its corner like a loyal assistant. Pages sleep in cloth wraps and leather satchels, and for a moment you imagine yourself folding into that same quiet, tied gently with a cord, stored neatly on a shelf, protected from wind. But the night is not finished offering you its lessons. You rise slowly, as if you are afraid to startle the room. The lamp is lifted again, and its warm pool of light moves with you, a soft boundary between you and the larger dark. You step back through the modest doorway into the alleys, and the air changes, cooler, drier, touched with a faint edge of distance. Timbuktu feels different now that you've seen its interior mind. The walls still glow faintly with stored warmth, but beyond them you can sense something vaster, something patient. The city guides you not with signs but with gradients. The alleys widen gradually. The foot traffic thins. The smells shift. Fewer spices, less cooking smoke, more dust and leather and animal warmth. You pass quiet doorways, low walls, courtyards settling into sleep. A last mint-sweet breath drifts from somewhere behind you, then fades into the honest dryness of desert air. You walk toward the edge of Timbuktu. It doesn't feel like leaving. It feels like approaching a threshold. The packed earth underfoot grows looser, grains sliding a little with each step, as if the city's firm ground is slowly surrendering to sand. The oil lamp's glow becomes more noticeable now. Outside the dense warmth of courtyards and rooms, its light is a small, stubborn island. You begin to understand why people guard these flames. Night in a desert is not merely dark. It is spacious. It can make you feel tiny in a way that has no interest in comforting you. Ahead, the alley spills into an open area where the city's structures give way to a broader, flatter view. The sky is enormous, deep indigo scattered with stars that look sharper than any you're used to. Stars with edges, stars that seem to have been washed clean by the dry air. The horizon is a faint line of darker land against darker sky, and somewhere out there the Sahara stretches without shame, without apology, without a single, "Are you okay with this?" You breathe in. The air tastes like distance. You begin to notice shapes, low and steady, clustered together. Camels. Their silhouettes are patient. Their bodies built for the kind of endurance that makes your modern, busy life look like a theatrical hobby. Their legs fold beneath them as they rest, and when they shift you hear leather creak and harness rings tap softly. Bundles are stacked nearby, bales wrapped in cloth, tied with rope, secured with the same measured care you saw used for manuscripts. The logic is familiar now. Whether it's a page or a trade good, protection is everything. The woven reed basket appears again, and the sight of it makes you oddly relieved, as if a small domestic object can anchor you when the horizon gets too wide. It sits near other containers, leather bags, wooden boxes, cloth bundles, waiting for its turn to carry something useful. You realize this is what the city does. It takes the vastness outside and translates it into manageable units. A basket, a bundle, a page, a cup, a lamp. Survival by subdivision. You stand at the desert's doorway and feel the caravan logic settling into your bones. Nothing moves without reason. Nothing is loaded without thought. Weight is balanced. Fragile goods are cushioned. Water is counted. Routes are known not because the desert is generous, but because it is consistent in the way it refuses to be. You watch how people move here, calm and exact. A rope is checked, then checked again. A knot is tightened with a practiced pull. Cloth covers are adjusted to keep sand out. Even in low lamplight, everything looks deliberate. Nobody is improvising for fun. Improvisation out here is how you become a story other people tell as a warning. Your mind tries to spin the scene into drama. Danger, desperation, sudden sandstorms, heroic rescues. Then the night gently corrects you. The most striking thing about this edge of city work is how unromantic it is. It's not about proving bravery. It's about preventing problems. It's about knowing that a small mistake can grow teeth in the desert. The oil lamp's flame leans briefly as a breeze passes, and a hand shields it. The flame steadies again, and you feel the lesson land quietly. Protect the light first. Without light, you don't see knots. Without light, you don't see fraying rope. Without light, you don't see the way your own feet might stumble. Big journeys begin with tiny, boring protections. You look at the bundles and imagine what they carry. Salt, pale and heavy, cut into slabs that look like captured moonlight. Cloth dyed indigo, deep enough to hold night itself. Spices that keep food interesting and bodies warm. Perhaps even paper, wrapped and guarded, destined for scribes' hands. Perhaps manuscripts themselves, carefully tied, carried across distance the way you carry a fragile thought through a loud day. And suddenly you understand Timbuktu's role with a clarity that feels almost physical. The city is not just a place. It is a hinge. It turns between worlds, river and desert, north and south, trade and study, survival and meaning. The market is its heartbeat. The courtyard is its breath. The library is its mind. And this edge of city caravan space is its spine, where everything that has been gathered is prepared to move onward. You don't step into the desert tonight. Not fully. You are not here to conquer anything, and the Sahara, frankly, would laugh if you tried. You are here to feel the threshold, to sense the scale of what people manage with routine and care. You are here to understand that every cup of mint tea in a courtyard, every neat stack of pages under lamplight, every gentle smile in the market is connected to this larger system of movement and risk. Standing there beneath a sky that seems too big for your worries, you feel your own problems shrink. Not dismissed, not mocked, just put into proportion. The desert does that. It doesn't solve you. It sizes you. You turn back toward the city, lamp glow guiding your steps, basket waiting to carry whatever comes next. You feel the caravan logic follow you in quiet, practical, steady, like a new way of thinking you didn't know you needed. Plan gently, pack carefully, move calmly, and never assume the world owes you softness. Tonight, Timbuktu gives you softness anyway. You return from the desert's edge with the brass oil lamp's glow leading you like a quiet oath. Keep the flame steady. Keep your steps measured. Don't turn the night into a problem just because your mind enjoys drama. The city welcomes you back the way it always has. Without fanfare, without interrogation, with alleys that tighten and curve as if Timbuktu is gently folding you into its palm. The air grows warmer as you re-enter the dense network of mud brick passages. The packed earth underfoot firms again, and the scent of distance, leather, camel, open sky, softens into something more domestic. Faint smoke, warm plaster, and the occasional sweet, clean hit of mint drifting from behind a doorway. Lanterns flicker in recessed niches. Shadow and light alternate over your hands as you walk, and your thoughts, which were beginning to swell under the huge desert sky, settle back into their smaller, more human proportions. You pass a corner you recognize, not because you could draw a map. Please, you would get lost in your own living room if someone changed the furniture, but because the city's rhythm is starting to imprint itself on you. Here is where the alley widens just enough for two people to pass without brushing shoulders. Here is where the plaster is patched in a slightly different tone, like a healed scar. Here is where the scent of ink returns, faint but unmistakable, as if knowledge has its own weather. In the scribe's lane, the warm hush of work continues. The oil lamp is set down briefly, its flame steadying the scene. You watch hands move in their quiet precision. A reed trimmed, a cloth folded, a page smoothed. There is no theatrical moment. There is only continuity, task following task, the way breath follows breath. And then, without words, you are included. A cloth-wrapped bundle is placed near the woven reed basket, and a pair of careful hands tucks the lining around it with a familiar exactness. The bundle is not large, thin enough to be manageable, thick enough to matter. Its corners are squared. Its cord is tied neatly. It looks like something that has been prepared with intention, the way a person prepares food for someone they care about. Not to impress, but to protect. You don't need an explanation to understand what you've been given. Timbuktu has been teaching you all night that value is carried quietly. This bundle is value. Whether it holds blank pages, copied lines, or a manuscript that has already survived dust and distance, it is clearly something the city does not want the wind to touch. You take the basket by its handle. The reed weave presses into your palm, familiar and grounding. The cloth lining folds over the bundle like a small shelter. The oil lamp's flame lifts again, and you move out into the alleys, carrying light in one hand and fragile weight in the other, like some kind of extremely sleepy guardian of paperwork. You walk carefully, because now you understand the desert's personality. Sand is not merely on the ground. Sand is in the air, in the corners, in every gap that isn't defended. It is curious. It is persistent. It is, frankly, the kind of guest who shows up uninvited and eats your snacks without making eye contact. The alley turns, and the wind finds you. At first it is gentle, just a cool breath sliding between walls. Then it strengthens, and the city responds instinctively. A hand shields the oil lamp. A shoulder turns slightly to block the basket. A piece of cloth is pulled tighter over a doorway. Timbuktu does not panic. It adjusts. You imitate the motion because, once again, your body is learning faster than your brain. Fine sand lifts and swirls in the lamplight, glittering briefly like tiny shell gold flecks before disappearing into shadow. For a moment the air looks alive, moving in soft spirals. It would be beautiful if it weren't also trying to ruin everything you've been admiring. You lower your chin and keep walking. The basket stays close to your hip. The lamp stays shielded. You tell yourself you are calm, and your nervous system, suspicious as always, takes notes. The wind eases. The sand settles. The alley breathes out again. You reach a courtyard you recognize. The one where the air feels cooler, where water waits in clay jars, where mint tea seems to exist not as a drink but as a general philosophy. The lamp is set down, safe and steady. The basket is placed gently on a low surface. Your hands relax, and you feel a small satisfaction bloom in your chest. You did the thing. You carried the fragile thing. You did not trip, spill, or dramatically fall to your knees like a doomed messenger in a tragic epic. And then you look down. The cloth lining is still there. The basket is still there. The cord, however, there is a loose end, lying across the rim like a tongue of forgotten thread. The cloth cover is slightly shifted, the fold not as crisp as you remember. The bundle is not sitting where it should be. Your mind tries to correct the image. Surely it's just tucked deeper. Surely the lamplight is playing tricks. Surely you are not about to become the person who loses something precious after being trusted for approximately 12 minutes. You lift the cloth carefully. Empty space stares back at you, dark and absurd. The basket's woven bottom shows through the lining. The only weight inside is the faint dust that has gathered in the weave, the kind that appears everywhere, always, as if the city itself is made of quiet grit. For a moment you freeze, not the noble kind of freezing, the very human kind where your brain goes blank except for one loud, unhelpful thought. No. You search the basket again, slower, as if changing the speed will change reality. You check beneath the lining, along the sides, in the folds. You find the cord's end, still tied to nothing. It's not loosened as if it was worried into release by movement and wind. You find a faint crease in the cloth where the bundle had been resting. You do not find the bundle. The oil lamp's flame leans, then steadies again, as if it is politely pretending not to witness your failure. The courtyard remains calm. The night remains soft. You are the only thing in the scene that wants to combust. You stand very still, trying to reconstruct the last stretch of alley. The wind's brief rise, the swirl of sand in lamplight, the moment you tightened your grip, the corner you turned, the way the basket bumped lightly against your hip, any tiny tug you might have missed, any slip that could have let a cloth-wrapped piece of knowledge slide out and vanish into the city's shadows like it never existed. Your modern instinct is to panic with commitment, to sprint, to flail, to narrate your own disaster as if volume could reverse time. But Timbuktu has been educating you all evening, and it would be rude to ignore your lesson now. The city solves problems with grace. The city moves carefully. The city counts water, protects flame, covers pages, and does not feed the desert your mistakes unless absolutely necessary. So you inhale, long and slow, mint lingering faintly in the air as if trying to help. You look at the cord again, then at the empty basket, then at the alley mouth that leads back into the night. A small problem has arrived wearing sand, and it is not interested in your excuses. You stand there with the empty basket and the loose cord, and for a few slow breaths you practice the most advanced skill in the entire human curriculum: not making it worse. The oil lamp glows steadily beside you, refusing to participate in your inner catastrophe. The courtyard remains cool and orderly. The clay jars hold their water. The mint scent hangs in the air like a small mercy. Everything around you is calm enough to be insulting. Your mind, of course, tries to sprint. It wants to leap ahead to consequences. Ruined trust, lost knowledge, the desert's smug grin, your future self lying awake at 3 a.m. replaying the moment the bundle slipped away as if insomnia is a film festival and you're the guest of honor. You watch those thoughts rise. Then you do the gentler thing Timbuktu has been showing you all night. You let them pass without feeding them. You look at what you do have: the basket, the cloth lining, the cord, the faint crease where the bundle sat, the memory of the wind lifting sand in the lamplight, bright for a moment like tiny flecks of shell gold before it settled back into shadow. The city is not asking you to be dramatic. It is asking you to be precise. You begin with the simplest action. You secure the lamp's flame, shielding it as you step toward the alley. You pull the basket close to your hip, empty now but still useful, still part of the system. You don't rush into the night like a frantic hero. You move like a person who understands that the thing you lost may still be nearby, and that panic is the fastest way to miss it. The alley receives you with its familiar narrowness. Mud brick walls rise close on either side, still warm to the touch. The air is cooler than earlier, and the wind feels quieter now, as if it already had its fun and went home. Your footsteps land softly on packed earth, and the lamp's warm pool of light slides ahead of you, revealing grit, small pebbles, the edges of doorways, the gentle scuffs of countless sandals. You retrace your path exactly, not in your head, where memories love to lie, but with your body. The turn where the wind strengthened, the stretch where the sand glittered in the lamplight, the corner where you adjusted your grip. You slow down at each of those points, not because slowing is dramatic, but because slowing is accurate. You scan the ground along the wall where the basket brushed your hip. You scan the opposite wall too, because the world is rarely polite enough to lose things only on the side you prefer. You watch for shapes that don't belong. A cloth corner, a cord loop, a small unnatural lump against the earth. The lamp's flame makes every grain of sand look like it has a story. You remind yourself, gently, firmly, not to be seduced by every glittering distraction. You're searching for one specific absence made physical. You turn back toward the scribe's lane, because that is where the bundle first mattered. The air changes subtly as you approach. Ink's mineral sharpness returns, the faint resin of binding, the clean vegetal note of reed. The lane's hush is still there, the same steady labor continuing without fanfare. In the warm light, your problem feels both more serious and more solvable. Serious because this is a place where pages are handled like fragile living things. Solvable because this is a place where people know how to handle fragile living things. You don't burst in. You don't demand attention. You present yourself to the night the way you've learned to present a cup. Carefully, with both hands, with restraint. You lift the basket slightly so its emptiness is visible without being theatrical. You show the loose cord, the shifted lining. You let the facts speak without adding your personal soundtrack of shame. The response is immediate, but not frantic. Practical hands move with the same calm precision you saw used on reed tips and ink bowls. The lamp is adjusted to throw better light onto the basket, onto the cord, onto the knot that failed. The knot is examined as if it is a sentence with a grammatical error. Something fixable, something instructive, not something worthy of punishment. You realize, with a faint internal wince, that these people have lost things before, not because they are careless, but because they live in a world where wind exists and sand is rude and the night does not care about your plans. You are guided back along your route, the search becoming a quiet procession of attention. The oil lamp remains the center of the method. Light first, always. Shadows are not treated as scary mysteries. They are treated as spaces that need illumination. Your pace stays measured. The basket stays close. The city's rule repeats itself. Don't rush the pour. Don't rush the search. You stop at the corner where the wind had surged. You study the ground more closely now, seeing how sand has drifted into tiny ripples along the wall. You notice a subtle disturbance, an unevenness, as if something slid and then was lightly covered by settling grit. It is small, almost nothing, the kind of detail your usual speed would bulldoze past. You kneel slowly, keeping the lamp's flame steady. The sand here is finer, layered like soft flour. You brush it aside with careful fingers, not sweeping, not scattering, just parting it in thin sheets. Your hand touches cloth, rougher than sand, softer than brick. A corner emerges, then another. A cord loop appears like a small relieved sigh. The bundle is there, half hidden by the desert's casual attempt to claim it. It has not traveled far. It has simply slipped at exactly the wrong moment and settled into the city's edge shadow, waiting for someone patient enough to notice what the sand tried to disguise. You lift it with both hands. It is heavier than you remember, not in mass but in meaning. The cloth wrap is dusty but intact. The cord is loosened but not destroyed. The pages inside, whatever they are, have been protected by the very habits you've been watching all night. Wrapping, lining, tying, covering. Even when the system failed briefly, the system still reduced damage. You hold the bundle close to the lamp and check it the way you saw paper checked: edge, corner, cord, surface. The cloth lining of the basket is unfolded again, and you set the bundle into it as if placing a sleeping thing into a cradle. The cord is retied with a better knot, calm, firm, tested. The cloth is folded over with deliberate precision, no loose corners to catch the wind. You feel the tension in your chest ease, not with a triumphant burst, but with a gentle unwinding. As you rise, the city's lesson lands cleanly. Problems do not require panic to be solved. They require attention, method, and the humility to retrace your steps without rewriting history to protect your ego. Timbuktu is not disappointed in you for losing something in the wind. Timbuktu is teaching you how to find it without losing yourself too. You walk back toward the courtyard, lamp steady, basket held close, bundle secured. The night feels the same, but you do not. Your movements are quieter. Your mind is calmer. you are carrying knowledge again, not just in cloth and reed weave, but in the way your body now understands how to move through a world that is both beautiful and indifferent. And for once, you don't need to survive heroically. You survive correctly. You carry the bundle back through the alleys with a new kind of steadiness. Less, I am responsible for fragile knowledge, and more, I have learned how wind behaves, and I refuse to be personally offended by it. The brass oil lamp leads the way, the flame shielded by your hand when the air stirs. The woven reed basket rests against your hip, the cloth folded over the bundle with the crispness of a well-made promise. The city feels subtly different now that you've completed a small repair instead of a dramatic meltdown. The walls are the same mud brick warmth. The packed earth still holds the day's memory under your feet. But your attention has changed. You notice how Timbuktu is built not only from buildings, but from habits, tiny acts repeated so consistently they become invisible architecture. As you near the market lanes again, you pass a cluster of work that the lamplight makes intimate. A weaver's area is marked not by a sign, but by the presence of cloth, threads stretched, finished fabric folded, dye-stained hands moving with calm certainty. Indigo dominates like night made wearable, deep enough to make lamplight look richer. Turmeric yellow cloth glows softly, like stored sunshine, and teal fabric shifts in the shadows like cool water. Even without dialogue, you can feel the rhythm of their work. Pull, pass, tighten, smooth. A pattern appears not through inspiration, but through consistency. You slow as you walk past, careful not to disturb. The air smells faintly of plant dye and damp fiber. You realize how many systems must behave for this cloth to exist. Water drawn and saved, dye prepared, fibers cleaned, looms built and maintained, hands trained over years. The city's hidden order is not a secret society. It is logistics that learned to look graceful. The lamp throws shell gold light across a folded stack of fabric. The edges are aligned, the folds sharp. Cloth here is not only adornment, it is shelter. It wraps pages against dust. It lines baskets. It covers water jars to keep them clean. It becomes a curtain, a cloak, a shade. The same indigo that looks beautiful in the market is also a working material, a protective skin for objects and people alike. You continue, and the scent shifts from dye to leather. Somewhere nearby, hides are being worked, softened, stretched, treated with oils and patience. Leather creaks as the strap is tested. You think of the caravans at the city's edge, the harness rings tapping softly, the bundles tied down with calm precision. Those ropes and straps are not background details. They are the difference between goods arriving and goods becoming desert souvenirs. Even the reed basket in your hand feels connected. It is woven from plant material gathered, dried, split, and braided into something that can carry weight without complaint. Basket making is a quiet form of engineering. The weave must be tight enough to hold small items, open enough to breathe, flexible enough to survive being bumped against hips for miles. Your basket has already proven it can fail a little and still be useful, honestly relatable. You pass a small corner where metalwork glints briefly in the lamplight. Tools, fasteners, perhaps a brass fitting. It reminds you of the oil lamp itself, a simple vessel that transforms stored oil into light. Someone shaped that brass. Someone knew how to measure thickness, how to seal seams, how to craft a spout that pours without spilling. The lamp's steadiness is not luck. It is skill made physical. The deeper you walk, the more you sense how Timbuktu moves like a well-tuned body. The market is the heartbeat, yes, but the arteries are these craft lanes, these routines, these hands that keep everything supplied. Water carriers move without fuss. Swept courtyards appear like pauses in a sentence. Doorways are patched and repaired rather than abandoned. In a desert city, maintenance is not a hobby. It is survival with good manners. You feel the bundle's weight again and imagine the entire chain that protects it. Paper or parchment prepared and checked. Ink mixed and guarded. Pages written and dried with sand sprinkled just enough to help but not enough to harm. Remember that glittering swirl that tried to steal your bundle like a petty magician? Cloth wraps and cords and knots that must be right. Shelves carved into walls. Rooms chosen for coolness and dryness. Lamps tended, wicks trimmed. Even the tea you drank, mint steeped carefully, poured from height, served with sweet steadiness, supports the system by supporting the people who do the work. This is the hidden order. Nothing grand, nothing mystical, just 1,000 small competencies stacked neatly on top of each other. You arrive at the familiar courtyard with clay jars and cool air. The oil lamp is set down in its usual place, flame still steady, as if it never doubted you for a second. The basket is placed gently on a low surface. You unfold the cloth, check the cord, and confirm the bundle is exactly where it belongs, because now you are the sort of person who checks, not the sort of person who assumes. The courtyard's calm receives you again. Mint lingers faintly, like reassurance without clinginess. Water sits in its jar, cool and patient. You rinse your fingers lightly, and the water's chill feels like a small reset, an acknowledgement that you've been moving through dust and effort, and now you may return to stillness. You look around with new appreciation. The courtyard is not merely a nice place to sit. It is part of the city's operating system. It keeps bodies hydrated, hands clean, minds calm. It creates the conditions under which ink can dry properly and pages can be handled safely. It is one more example of Timbuktu's genius. It doesn't separate comfort from productivity. It knows comfort is what makes productivity sustainable. You settle again near the wall, basket and bundle close, lamp glow warming the mud brick into honey. You think back to the moment the bundle vanished and how quickly your mind tried to turn it into a catastrophe. Then you think of the weaver's hands. Steady, repetitive, unbothered by the drama your brain likes to produce. The city keeps teaching you the same gentle truth from different angles. Order is not control. Order is care. The night hums quietly around you. Distant footsteps, a faint rustle of cloth, the soft breathing of a place that knows how to hold itself together. You take one slow breath, then another, and you feel yourself fitting into Timbuktu's rhythm as if you've always belonged to it, at least for tonight. You sit with the basket close and the bundle secured, and it's almost funny how quickly your body learns. Earlier, a missing bundle felt like the end of the world. Now, the world feels exactly the same, quiet, cool, lamplit, and you simply feel more competent inside it. It's a small victory, the kind nobody claps for, the kind that matters anyway. The courtyard holds you in shade and warmth. The brass oil lamp keeps its steady flame. Clay jars breathe coolness into the air. The scent of mint is faint now, like an afterthought, like the city doesn't want you to become dependent on comfort as a personality trait. Somewhere beyond the wall, the night continues. Soft footfalls, distant murmurs, the sound of a donkey shifting its weight. Timbuktu is awake, but it isn't loud about it. You glance at the bundle again. Dust still clings to the cloth wrap. Fine sand that tried to claim it and nearly succeeded. You rub a corner gently between your fingers. The grit reminds you how delicate the city's treasures are, and how aggressively the desert insists on participating. This is when you realize the problem wasn't only the bundle slipped. The deeper problem is constant and ambient. Dust and dryness are always trying to erase what the city creates. You've been watching solutions all night without naming them. Now, with the bundle safe again, you start noticing the art of protection as a craft of its own. The first enemy is wind-borne sand, obvious and persistent. It slips into folds, settles into corners, roughens surfaces, and loves nothing more than a freshly inked page. You remember the glittering swirl in the lamplight. The sand looked beautiful for a second, like tiny shell gold flecks. Then it became what it always was, an eraser with no manners. You watch how people handle cloth in this courtyard. Wraps are folded with edges aligned, corners tucked in, no loose flaps to catch air. The lining of the basket is not decorative. It is a barrier. The cord is not symbolic. It is a seal. Even the way the bundle sits, deep in the basket, cloth folded over it, reduces the amount of exposed surface for dust to settle on. Protection is geometry. Then there's dryness. It sounds harmless until you understand what it does. Dry air can make paper brittle, can make bindings crack. It can make ink behave differently, drying too fast, flaking, losing adhesion. It can make leather stiff and prone to splitting. In a place where the air itself is thirsty, preservation becomes a daily conversation with materials. You notice how storage spaces are chosen. Manuscripts are kept in rooms that stay cooler. Mud brick walls holding temperature steady. Small openings limiting gusts. Alcoves tucked away from direct drafts. Cloth wraps add another layer, moderating sudden changes. Wooden boxes and leather satchels act like secondary skins. Nothing is left naked. Even water plays a role here, and it's handled with discretion. The city doesn't splash humidity around like it's decorating. It uses water where it is needed, washing hands, cooling jars, cleaning surfaces. Then it keeps it contained. Too much moisture invites other problems. Too little turns pages fragile. The balance is delicate. The solutions are careful. Timbuktu is not battling the environment. It is negotiating. Your mind returns to the scribe's lane and the way sand was sprinkled onto wet ink. It felt counterintuitive at first. Sand near writing? But now you see the elegance. The sand is used in controlled amounts to dry ink fast, reducing smudging. Then it is tipped away and saved. The enemy becomes a tool when you manage it correctly. The desert is not defeated. It is recruited. You lift the bundle's cloth wrap slightly and peek at the layers. Inside, pages are stacked, edges aligned. A secondary cloth lies between layers like a cushion. The wrapping itself is thick enough to blunt grit, smooth enough not to abrade. You think of the weavers you passed, how their cloth is both beautiful and functional. This is why. This is the city's hidden order again. Craft exists because survival demands it, and beauty arrives as a side effect of doing survival well. You watch hands nearby prepare another wrap. The cloth is shaken gently, not snapped, not whipped, so dust falls away without sending grit flying into the air. The cloth is then folded, pressed, and tied. The knot is tested with a small tug. You feel that tug in your own chest, as if your body is learning to test its own knots, habits, assumptions, routines, before trusting them with something precious. The brass oil lamp is checked too, wick trimmed, oil level assessed, flame shielded when the breeze shifts. Light is not assumed, it is maintained. You remember the library's hush and how the flame was treated like a heart. The lamp is part of preservation. Without light, you can't see dust. Without light, you can't see fraying cords. Without light, you can't see your own tired hands reaching for inked areas. Light is protection. Your attention drifts to small details that now feel huge. Mats hung in doorways to reduce drafts. Courtyards swept so grit doesn't rise with every footstep. Shelves set above ground level to avoid settling dust. Manuscripts placed in bundles rather than left stacked openly. These are not grand inventions. They are habits refined over generations. And you realize something that lands with a quiet tenderness. Preservation is not a single heroic act. It is a lifestyle. It is 1,000 small choices made consistently. Cover the page, tie the knot, sweep the floor, wash the hands, tend the lamp, line the basket, pour the tea slowly so nobody jolts the room and sends dust into the air. Your modern life loves big wins. Timbuktu teaches small continuities. You settle back against the wall, lamp glow warming your hands. You exhale slowly and feel how soothing this is. Not the idea of ancient manuscripts, but the rhythm of care that protects them. It's the same rhythm you could apply to your own mind. Cover what's fragile, shield what's important, maintain your light. Don't let every gust of wind rearrange your entire inner world. The bundle rests safely in the basket, dust brushed away, cord retied. Outside, the desert continues being itself, vast, dry, indifferent. Inside this courtyard, the city continues being itself, patient, deliberate, kind. And you, for tonight, keep learning how to be the same. You sit a little longer in the courtyard, because after a near miss like that, your body wants proof that the world has returned to normal. The brass oil lamp keeps its calm flame, the kind that doesn't flare up just to make a point. The water jars remain cool and patient. The bundle stays where it belongs, deep in the woven reed basket, tucked under folded cloth, cord tied with a knot that has been tested like it's going to be audited. Your nervous system, which usually treats minor inconveniences as the opening scene of a disaster film, starts to accept the evidence. The danger has passed. The sand has been outmaneuvered. You are not about to be exiled for incompetence. Nobody is preparing a dramatic speech about trust. The night is still night, and Timbuktu is still Timbuktu. A city that prefers quiet repairs to loud punishments. Eventually, you rise, and the movement feels different. Earlier, Every step carried a fear of making things worse. Now, your steps carry a small, steady confidence, the kind that comes from doing something right after doing something wrong. The oil lamp is lifted. The flame leans briefly as you move, then steadies, as if it, too, approves of calm follow-through. You carry the basket with both hands this time, not because you're panicking, but because you've learned the value of redundancy. One hand supports the weight, the other guards the cloth folds, keeping them snug against any curious gust. It's the same philosophy the city uses for everything. Don't depend on one thin barrier between order and chaos. Give yourself a second layer. The alleys receive you again. Mud brick walls close and warm, packed earth firm beneath your sandals. The night air feels clean where it isn't dusty, and every recessed lantern niche glows like a small reassurance. You pass the market lanes now quieter than before. Stalls have softened into shadows, and the last traces of spice and smoke drift in a calmer blend. A turmeric yellow cloth hangs limp in the still air, no longer bright with commerce, simply resting. Indigo cloaks slip by at the edges of lamplight like pieces of night walking upright. You return toward the manuscript space, guided not by signs but by memory and scent. The faint mineral edge of ink, the particular dryness of paper stored carefully, the softened leather smell of satchels. The doorway is modest again, almost shy, and you feel the familiar internal urge to overcomplicate the moment. Your brain wants to narrate it. Now you return, humbled, bearing the rescued bundle, proving your worth. You let that urge go. You are not here to prove your worth. You are here to set the bundle down. Inside, the air cools. The smell of old paper and time wraps around you like a blanket that knows exactly how to be heavy without suffocating. The brass lamp's glow turns the walls honey warm. Shelves wait in their alcoves, bundles stacked in quiet order. The room feels awake in the way a sleeping animal feels awake. Still, present, ready to stir if necessary. You move slowly. The basket is placed on a low surface. The cloth folds are lifted with careful fingers, and the bundle appears again. Dust brushed away, cord retied, edges aligned. In the lamp's light, it looks exactly like it should, protected, contained, ready to return to the system that holds it. And then the resolution happens in the least cinematic way possible, which is honestly the most comforting. A pair of steady hands checks your knot. Not suspiciously, not accusingly, simply the way someone checks a lid before lifting a pot. The cord is tugged gently, then retied into a stronger pattern. An adjustment so smooth it feels like a kindness rather than a correction. The cloth wrap is folded tighter, corners tucked in, and the bundle is slid into a leather satchel lined with soft fabric. Dust, wind, and dry air are once again given fewer opportunities to be rude. The satchel is set on a shelf in an alcove, above ground level, away from drafts, behind a cloth curtain that reduces the room's exposure to wandering grit. It is placed with the same gentleness you saw used for cups and pages and lamps. The action is not announced. It is simply done. You feel something unclench in your chest so quietly you almost miss it. It's like a hand releasing a grip you didn't realize you were holding. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw softens. The unpleasant heat of shame drains away. replaced by a calmer warmth. Relief, yes, but also something like belonging. Because the city has not treated your mistake as your identity. It has treated it as an incident, a small failure in a world built to absorb small failures. You understand now why Timbuktu survives. Not because nobody ever slips, not because wind never rises, but because the culture is structured around repair. Lining baskets, wrapping bundles, testing knots, tending lamps, sweeping floors, storing pages carefully. When one layer fails, the next one catches. Your mind reaches back to the moment the sand swirled in the lamplight. Beautiful for a second, treacherous the next. You realize you will remember that image the way you remember a hard lesson delivered gently. The desert is not malicious. It is simply consistent. Your job is not to take it personally. Your job is to build habits strong enough to hold what matters anyway. You step back and let the room settle. The brass oil lamp continues to glow. Shadows remain soft around the shelves. Somewhere a page shifts faintly in its wrap, like a sleeping thing adjusting. Outside, Timbuktu's night continues. Quiet footfalls, distant hush. A city breathing at a pace your modern life forgot was possible. You return to the courtyard one more time, because closure needs somewhere to land. Tea appears again, warm and sweet, and you take the cup with both hands. You sip slowly. Mint cools your breath. Sweetness steadies your tongue. The cup warms your palms. And you set it down gently, with the same care you used to return the bundle to its shelf. This is the shape of the resolution. Not a triumphant ending, not a public celebration, not a dramatic absolution, just a series of small actions that restore order. A knot retied, a wrap adjusted, a satchel closed, a lamp tended, a cup placed down without a clatter. Your nervous system registers the message at last. Things can be fixed quietly. You can make a mistake and still be welcome. You can lose something and find it again without losing yourself. In the soft lamplight, with mint on your breath and the city's calm around you, that feels like the most precious knowledge of all. You keep the cup in your hands a little longer than necessary, not because you need more tea, but because the warmth feels like proof that the night is still gentle. The brass oil lamp glows nearby, steady as ever, doing its quiet job without drama. The courtyard is calmer now, and the air has that in-between softness that says morning is approaching. A faint shift moves through the world. The wind loses its sharpness. Dust settles into corners and stays there. Somewhere far off, an animal adjusts its weight, and leather makes a sleepy creak. The night is still present, but it is no longer in charge. You rise slowly and step into the alleys. The packed earth under your sandals feels firmer, as if someone swept again while you weren't looking. Mud brick walls keep yesterday's warmth tucked inside them, but their upper edges are cooling, and the strip of sky above has begun to thin from indigo toward gray-blue. You don't carry the woven reed basket now. It rests where it belongs, emptied of urgent responsibility. The bundle you rescued is back on a shelf, wrapped and curtained, nested inside a system built to survive gusts and human error. Your hands feel oddly free without the handle pressing into your palm. For a moment you almost miss the weight, which is a classic human move. Complain about a burden, then feel sentimental when it's gone. The turns that would have swallowed you earlier now feel almost familiar. You recognize how the city guides you with small cues. A recessed lantern niche, a cooler pocket of air, the faint mineral edge of ink that returns when you near the scribe's lane. You don't need a map, you have a rhythm. Near the market lanes, the city holds its breath before day work begins. Stalls sit under cloth covers tied down in tidy folds. A few figures move quietly, checking cords and smoothing cloth so sand cannot slip in. Indigo fabric drinks the remaining night. Teal catches a last bit of lamplight and looks, for a second, like water you can wear. You drift close to the scribe's quarter without entering, letting the air remind you what you learned. Ink has that smoky, mineral presence, like patience given a scent. You remember lamplight turning page edges faintly shell gold. And you remember the moment sand glittered in that same light before it tried to steal what mattered. You also remember what followed. Retracing your steps, kneeling, brushing aside grit with calm fingers, and readying a knot that should have been stronger from the start. Above the alley line, the sky changes again. Indigo thins. A gray-blue band appears at the horizon and spreads gradually, as if morning is being poured from height like tea, steady stream. No splashing, no rush. The last stars fade without drama, simply stepping back. You reach a wider opening and glimpse the city's edge, the threshold where caravans wait and the desert begins its endless, honest stretch. The Sahara is still there, vast and indifferent, calmer in the growing light. In daylight, it is less glitter and more patience. A surface that will take whatever you drop and never apologize for it. You look at it with respect, the kind you offer anything consistent that does not care about your excuses. Behind you, Timbuktu wakes in small ways. A door opens softly. A broom sweeps packed earth with a dry hush. Water is carried, measured, saved. A kettle is set to heat, and the faintest suggestion of mint rises into the morning air like a promise that comfort is not only for night. You turn back toward the courtyard for the last time, letting your eyes memorize what matters. Mud brick warmed by yesterday, plaster patched with patience, cloth tied down against wind, lamps set where they can be reached. You let your mind collect these images the way a scribe collects letters, carefully without smudging. You know you will not remember every detail. You also know you do not need to. The lesson is a rhythm. Tend the light, protect what is fragile, and assume the world will gust again. At the courtyard doorway, you pause. The cool air inside is held in shade. The clay jars sit where they always sit, quietly brilliant in their simplicity. The lamp still glows, though it is less necessary now. Dawn is arriving with its own pale authority. This courtyard has been your center, water, tea, calm, and the rare permission to fail a little and recover without being turned into a cautionary tale. You take one more breath and let it go slowly, as if an exhale can store memory inside you. Then you step away, letting the city continue without you. The farewell is brief because Timbuktu does not cling. Teaches, it hosts, it repairs, and then it returns to its work. You walk onward as the first light strengthens, and the lamp's glow becomes smaller, gentler, almost shy against the incoming day. Your thoughts feel quieter now, Not empty, just arranged, like pages stacked neatly under cloth. You carry nothing in your hands, and yet you feel as if you are carrying something real. A method, a pace, a city's calm stitched into your breath. Morning finishes arriving the way it always does in a place that respects work. Quietly, with no need for applause. The sky over Timbuktu lightens from gray blue to a pale, dusty gold, and the mud brick walls stop holding the night so tightly. Shadows shorten, corners soften. Even the air feels less like a secret. You walk the alleys one last time, not searching now, just letting your feet say goodbye to the packed earth that held you steady. The city wakes in small, exact motions. A broom sweeps yesterday's grit into neat lines. A clay jar is nudged deeper into shade to keep its water cool. Cloth covers are tightened so sand cannot sneak in and pretend it belongs. Nobody rushes. Timbuktu simply transitions. The scent of mint returns, faint at first, then clearer as kettles begin to murmur. It threads through the alleys like a reminder that comfort here is not a reward. It is part of the system. You remember how sweetness steadied your breath in lamplight, how your thoughts slowed until they stopped biting. You also remember, with a tiny internal wince, the moment the cord loosened, the basket went light, and the empty space stared back at you like an accusation made of air. The city did not accuse you. It offered method instead of judgment. Retrace your steps. Keep the lamp steady. Brush sand aside gently. Tie a better knot. Protect the page. You carry that lesson now more securely than any bundle in a reed basket. It sits in your body as a rhythm your muscles have learned. You pass the scribe's lane while the light is still kind. The air holds its mineral edge of ink and reed. In a doorway, cloth-wrapped volumes rest with the quiet confidence of things that have survived weather and time. You think of page edges catching shell gold in the lamp's glow, and you feel gratitude for the people who keep that glow alive, wick by wick, line by line. Knowledge here is not a concept. It is a craft that requires hands, water, shade, and patience. Near the market, stalls open like flowers that know their schedule. Indigo cloth drinks the strengthening light. Turmeric yellow brightens the lane with a practical cheer. Teal flashes in motion and then settles again, cooling the scene like water in shade. Goods appear, salt pale as captured morning, dates dark and glossy, spices arranged in small hills of rust and gold, and the unshowy smiles return, precise as good measurements. You drift toward the courtyard that held you, the one where water waited and tea did its quiet work on your nervous system. The brass oil lamp is there, now less necessary but still treated with respect, as if the sun's arrival does not cancel the lamp's service. The woven reed basket rests nearby, empty again, perfectly ordinary, and yet you look at it with a soft affection. Its we've pressed lessons into your palm. Its lining taught you that protection is not decoration. You rinse your fingertips lightly in the basin, and the coolness is a clean punctuation. Then you sit for one final cup of mint tea. The pour is steady from height, turning liquid into calm. You take the cup in both hands, breathe in the scent, and let mint cut through the last threads of worry your mind still drags behind it. One sip, then another slower. Sweetness, warmth, and that bright lift that feels like your chest remembering how to be spacious. You do not stay long. Part of what makes this place soothing is that it doesn't cling. Hospitality is given, then released. Knowledge is held, then passed along. Even the desert at the edge of the city teaches this. Everything moves, and you don't have to fight that movement to love what you've seen. So you stand. You let your eyes travel once more over mud brick warmth, patched plaster, folded cloth, the jar's rounded belly, the lamp's brass curve. You let the scene settle into you the way ink settles into a line after it dries. No smear, no rush. You step back into the alley with your hands empty and your mind less crowded. The city continues behind you, already sweeping, pouring, writing, tying, protecting. At the edge where packed earth loosens into sand, you pause. The Sahara stretches beyond, vast and honest. You don't step into it. You simply acknowledge it like you acknowledge any force that will outlast your moods. Then you turn toward whatever morning waits in your own world, carrying Timbuktu's quiet method like a hidden manuscript under your ribs. Tend the light, fold the cloth, test the knot, and let small kindnesses keep you intact. The last thing you feel is mint on your breath and warm lamplight in your memory, fading gently as the sun rises higher, until even the shadows seem ready to sleep. The day keeps brightening, but you carry the night's softness the way you carry warmth after stepping away from a cup. Lingering, quiet, real. Your steps feel slower even when you are moving forward, as if the alleys taught your body a new default. Unhurried, attentive, kind to itself. In your mind, the city becomes a small sequence of gentle images. The brass oil lamp, breathing steadily, refusing to panic. The woven reed basket, lined with cloth, doing its humble work without needing praise. The sand swirl in the lamplight, beautiful, brief, and ready to steal anything you leave unguarded. The cool basin water on your fingertips, resetting you with a simple chill. The page edges catching shell gold for a moment, then settling back into shadow. The mint tea, sweet and bright, turning your breath into something lighter. You let those images drift as if they are settling onto a shelf inside you, wrapped and protected. Nothing needs to be forced. Nothing needs to be solved tonight. If a worry rises, you treat it like dust. Notice it, brush it aside gently, and return to the steady work of breathing. Your eyelids grow heavier, and the world becomes softer around the edges. You do not need to be impressive. You do not need to hold everything at once. You only need to keep a small light tended inside you. Tie your knots with a little more care, and accept water, shade, and rest when they are offered, without asking anything back. Now the last lamplight in your memory dims, not with loss, but with completion, and the mint on your breath fades into a clean, quiet calm. You sink into sleep, as if the city has swept a smooth place for your thoughts to lie down, and the desert has agreed to be still. End of story. Sweet dreams.